The rain hammered Boston General Hospital like fists demanding entry. Inside the emergency waiting room, 289 licensed physicians walked these corridors. Not one had stopped. Oliver Thornton was 2 years old, his face crimson from screaming, blood mixed with tears streaming down his cheeks. The infection had spread. His hearing aids had died 3 days ago. Now he lived in silent agony. His grandfather clutched the boy's hand with a grip that could move billions, but could not move these walls. Harrison Thornton was 73. Silver hair, Armani suit, 4.2 billion in net worth, completely powerless. Please, his voice cracked. Someone help my grandson. The receptionist barely glanced up. Dr. Whitman is on vacation. Next Thursday is the earliest. Thursday? 9 days? Harrison gestured at Oliver. Look at him. The woman's fingers kept typing. Unless it's life-threatening, sir. A young intern approached, fresh-faced, maybe 27. He shook his head after one glance. Pediatric audiology is specialized. Without Dr. Whitman, there's nothing we can do. Nothing, Harrison's voice boomed. I could buy this hospital before lunch. Would that help your procedures? The threat hung in the air. Several heads turned, but the intern did not flinch. That wouldn't change medical reality, sir. Victoria Thornton stepped forward. 25. Blue eyes like her grandfather. Iron will to match. Come on, grandfather, let's try somewhere else. We've tried 5 hospitals, Victoria. Harrison sounded defeated. Miguel. Then we'll try 6. She lifted Oliver into her arms. Come on, sweetheart. Outside, rain soaked through Victoria's coat in seconds. She curved her body over Oliver, protecting him. Harrison followed. For the first time in 73 years, he understood something about power. Money bought almost anything, except immediate help for a dying child when bureaucracy said no. 2 years ago, he'd lost his son, Michael Thornton. Car accident, rain-slicked highway. Harrison had been in Tokyo. He'd made it back for the funeral, held 6-month-old Oliver. Made a promise. I'll protect you. I won't fail you like I failed your father. Now Oliver screamed in his arms. 289 doctors had walked past. Maybe we should call Dr. Reichman in Switzerland. Victoria pulled out her phone. Have the jet ready. Harrison nodded. Another example of how wealth created parallel systems. Fly across an ocean for care. Neither noticed the small figure in the shadows. She was impossibly tiny, matted dark hair, skeletal frame, clothes in donated layers that hung loose. 6 years old. The city had forgotten her. Sometimes doctors don't listen when they're counting money. Her voice cut through the rain. Mama used to say that. Victoria spun. Where is your mother? The girl's face stayed blank. Heaven, 14 months, 6 days ago. Most simple arithmetic of loss. But she taught me things. The girl stood, barely reached Victoria's waist. His ears hurt bad, right? How did you know? He keeps touching them. Special crying when something hurts inside. She pointed at Oliver. Mama was a nurse. She showed me stuff. Harrison made a dismissive sound. Victoria, this child is homeless. We need professionals, not what? Victoria's voice had an edge. Not someone who actually stopped. Someone who noticed Oliver was suffering. More than 289 doctors managed. The small girl moved closer. Didn't touch, just asked. Can I see? Oliver couldn't hear, but something in her approach made him curious instead of afraid. What's your name? Victoria asked softly. Grace Coleman. Where do you stay? Shrug. Different places. Shelter on 3rd when it's cold, but they don't let kids alone, so I pretend I belong to families. Harrison's expression shifted. This child had been surviving on streets while he moved billions. How long on your own? 1 year, 2 months, 11 days. The precision hit Harrison like a fist. Michael had been 6 when Harrison missed his first day of school. Board meeting, couldn't be rescheduled. Michael had counted those absences too. The problem's inside, Grace pointed at Oliver's ear. Water gets trapped, turns bad, infection. The first hospital said that, but we can't see a specialist for weeks. Grace rolled her eyes. Doctors can't see past their fancy degrees sometimes. The acid in that child's voice made Harrison's lips twitch. There's mud over there, Grace pointed at a flower bed. Mama made poultices with special clay. Clean mud works too. Draws out bad stuff. Absolutely not, Harrison found his voice. We're not putting mud in my grandson's ears. Better than being deaf forever? Grace fired back. her chin tilted up. Yeah, deaf is probably worse. A crowd gathered, watching this strange scene. The billionaire, the fashionable woman, the screaming toddler, the homeless child standing ground like David before Goliath. How'd you know we have money? Victoria asked. Grace pointed at Harrison's wrist. The Patek Philippe gleamed. That watch costs more than a house. I'm 6, not stupid. Harrison found himself speechless. Victoria was already moving toward the flower bed. Show me. The mud was cool between Victoria's fingers. She watched Grace mix it with rainwater, creating thick paste with practiced confidence. Needs to be smooth, Grace explained. Small hands working with surprising skill. No stones. Those could hurt. Victoria, this is insane, Harrison protested. We could be at the airfield, and Oliver would still be screaming for 6 hours while we fly to Switzerland. Oliver grew curious, tears forgotten as he watched the mud girl work. When Grace approached with paste, he didn't pull away. Won't hurt, promise. Grace applied thin layer around Oliver's ear. Gentle, professional, not pushing inside. Claypool's infection, she explained. Like a magnet for bad stuff. Your mother taught you well. Shadow crossed Grace's face. She was smart, real smart. Oliver stayed remarkably still. Whether exhaustion or strange trust, he let Grace treat both ears. Now we wait. 10 minutes. The group made strange picture under the awning. Wealth and poverty, side by side, united by pain. Harrison checked his phone, eyes drifting back to Grace. This impossibly small person who stopped when 289 professionals hadn't. 289 physicians in this hospital. Harrison finally spoke. Voice had lost its harshness. Not one could spare 5 minutes. Victoria finished. When you have money, you think throwing more fixes it. Grace observed. Sometimes you just need someone who cares enough to get hands dirty. Harrison's mouth twitched. Philosopher for someone who hasn't finished elementary school. Haven't started, Grace corrected. Can't go to school without a dress. The statement hit Victoria like a blow. Never been to school? Shrug. Mama taught me to read. I practice with newspapers I find. Good at counting money. Pride in that last part. Victoria exchanged looks with Harrison. Silent communication. He gave imperceptible nod. Time to wash, Grace announced exactly 10 minutes later. Internal clock perfect. They moved to water fountain. Grace washed away mud gently, using her worn sleeve as towel. Oliver blinked, face scrunched in concentration. Then something remarkable happened. He giggled. Water tickles! Too loud, the way deaf people speak. Auntie Victoria, I can hear. Doesn't hurt, Victoria gasped. Oliver, say something else. The boy turned to Harrison. Grandpa talks loud, like TV too high. Harrison was on his feet instantly, moving with unexpected agility. Oliver, you truly hear me? Yes, Grandpa's super loud. Victoria turned to Grace, tears streaming. How did you? But Grace wasn't looking at them, her attention on a figure in shadows. Tall man in dark coat, watching intently. He's been there a while, Grace whispered, suddenly tense. Watching us. The man stepped forward. Harrison moved between stranger and children. Protective instinct raw. Can I help you? Authority in Harrison's voice. Man stepped into light. Weathered face, kind eyes, simple jacket over scrubs, not doctor's coat. Sorry, didn't mean to alarm you. Miguel Santos, I work here. Maintenance and security. He showed hospital ID. Why were you watching? Victoria asked. Miguel's gaze shifted to Grace. Recognition and sadness. I've seen this young lady before, sleeping in waiting rooms on cold nights. Security chases her out, but I bring her food sometimes. Grace relaxed slightly. Mr. Santos is nice. Gave me blanket last winter. Harrison studied Miguel. Reading people was his superpower. He saw genuine kindness. Rare in this city. You were watching how she helped my grandson. Miguel nodded. Fascinated. Old remedy from Guatemala. My grandmother was curandera, healer, used clay for ear infections. Oliver pointed at his ears. Mud girl fixed me. Doctors said no. Remarkable. Miguel smiled warmly. Harrison cleared throat. We're grateful for your kindness to... He faltered. Grace, Victoria supplied. Grace Coleman. Harrison reached for wallet. Reflexive gesture. We'd like to compensate you both. No. Simultaneous from Miguel and Grace. Didn't help for money, Grace said firmly. Chin up. Mama taught me to help because it's right. Miguel nodded. Though if I may be bold, this young lady needs more than money, needs home, schooling, stability. Harrison stiffened. There are proper channels, social services, which failed her for over a year. Victoria cut in sharply, while she slept in bus stations. She knelt to Grace's level. Where will you sleep tonight? Practice shrug. Library until 9, then bus station. Not too cold tonight. Victoria's throat tightened. That's not acceptable. She turned to Harrison. We have 22 empty bedrooms. Harrison's eyes widened. He recognized that expression. His late wife's look when she'd made up her mind. Victoria, we can't just take a child off the street. Laws. Procedures. Actually, Miguel interjected gently, I've been trying to help Grace navigate the system. Her mother died of cancer. No father, no relatives. Falling through cracks. Tense silence. Broken by Oliver's babbling. Harrison pulled out phone. Busharma. For God's sake, Jeffrey, get me Congressman Williams. Yes, I know it's his daughter's wedding. Tell him it's about a child. I'll double my contribution. He stepped away. Victoria smiled. Is he really calling a congressman? Miguel asked. Welcome to the Thornton Circus, Victoria replied dryly. Is he really a billionaire? Grace whispered. Victoria nodded. Yes, but as you said, that doesn't always solve important problems. Grace processed this. Does that mean real bed tonight? That and much more. 30 minutes later, they were in Harrison's Mercedes. Leather seats. Profound quiet. Grace sat very still, afraid to breathe too hard. Miguel had walked them to the car, bent to Grace's level. You did good thing today. Your mama would be proud. Grace hugged him fiercely. Thank you for the blanket, for remembering my name. How could I forget? Miguel straightened. Sir, I hope you know what remarkable child this is, what she did today. That was love made visible. Harrison nodded slowly. I'm beginning to understand. As Mercedes pulled away, Grace pressed face to window, watching Miguel wave until he disappeared. Grace? Harrison's voice from front startled her. Know what your name means? She shook her head. Unmerited favor. Blessing you didn't earn, but received anyway. Harrison caught her eyes in rearview mirror. Today, you were grace itself. A blessing Oliver didn't earn. None of us earned, but we received you anyway. Grace said nothing, just watched Boston stream past. The Thornton estate loomed before them. Built 1878, brownstone mansion occupying half a city block. Windows gleaming like watchful eyes. Grace stood frozen on sidewalk, hand clutching Victoria's, staring up in terror. You live here? One of the places. Victoria replied honestly. We have homes in New York, London too. Grace's grip tightened. Never been inside house this big. What if I get lost? Harrison overheard, surprised everyone with gentle chuckle. I still get lost occasionally. Lived here 7 decades. Small joke eased some tension. Oliver tugged Harrison's hand. Home. Want to show Grace my trains? Massive oak doors swung open before they reached it. Dignified man in his 60s. Impeccable posture. Good afternoon, Mr. Thornton. Miss Victoria, Master Oliver. Then eyebrow raised at Grace in tattered clothes. And guest. Whitmore, this is Grace. Harrison's tone brooking no judgment. She'll be staying with us. If Butler was surprised, only slight eye widening showed it. Very good, sir. Shall I prepare the blue guest room? The rose room, Victoria interjected. Next to Oliver's nursery. Gets morning sun. Grace stepped tentatively inside. Worn sneakers squeaking on marble. Space larger than any room she'd known. Ceiling soared 2 stories. Grand staircase curved upward. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow prisms. Holy cow, she caught herself. Harrison's mouth twitched. Indeed. Whitmore, could you ask Mrs. Peterson to draw a bath? Find some clothes that might fit for tonight. Of course, Mr. Thornton. Butler's eyes lingered on Grace. Formal demeanor softened. Would the young ladies care for hot chocolate while she waits? Grace's eyes widened. Real hot chocolate? Belgian chocolate melted with cream and cinnamon. Whitmore replied with national security seriousness. Nothing less acceptable in this household. Yes, please, Grace whispered, overwhelmed. Oliver tugged Grace's sleeve. Come see my room. Toys, race car bed, dinosaur books. First, let's get Grace settled. Victoria smiled. She's had long day. Harrison remained in foyer. Phone already out. Need to make calls, legal matters, temporary guardianship, Emergency placement. Victoria nodded, understanding complexity. What normally took months needed expediting. 2 hours later, Grace was unrecognizable. Bathed, hair washed and combed, pink pajamas with white clouds. Slightly large but soft as heaven. She sat at kitchen table, devouring third peanut butter sandwich with desperate efficiency. When did you last eat properly? Victoria asked gently. Grace considered. Tuesday last week. Church on Commonwealth does free dinner Tuesdays. Victoria's heart twisted. 6 days. You won't go hungry here, I promise. Harrison entered kitchen, rare occurrence, even Mrs. Peterson raised eyebrows. He looked slightly out of place among copper pots. I've spoken with Judge Harrison. Direct communication his style. Given an unusual circumstances, he's granted us emergency temporary guardianship, while permanent solution is arranged. Permanent solution? Victoria echoed. Wary. You mean adoption? Harrison's expression careful. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Still protocols, home studies, evaluations. There you go with protocols again. Victoria interrupted, edge in voice. This isn't corporate merger. This is child's life. Grace looked between them, sandwich forgotten, fear creeping back. Small figure appeared in the doorway. Oliver in dinosaur pajamas, rubbing eyes. Grace stay forever, he declared with 2-year-old certainty. She's my friend. Best friend who fixed my ears. Harrison opened mouth, closed it, finally sighed, sound from deep in chest. We'll see, Oliver. For now, yes, Grace is staying. Shadow passed across kitchen window. Perhaps bird, perhaps wind, but Grace tensed, eyes darting to darkness. What is it? Victoria noticed immediately. Grace shook head slowly. Nothing. Sometimes I feel like someone's watching. Ever since Mama died, like eyes on my back. Victoria pulled girl close. You're safe here. Security, cameras, guards. But even saying words, Victoria felt chill. Morning arrived with sunshine through rose curtains. Grace woke slowly, afraid to move, convinced motion might shatter the dream. Bedroom larger than apartment she'd shared with Mama. Hand-painted ceiling with cherubs. Furniture like museum pieces. Soft knock prompted her to sit up. Come in. Victoria entered, already dressed. Simple, expensive sweater and jeans. Good morning. How'd you sleep? Didn't wake up once. Why, Grace marveled. Bed doesn't have lumps. Pillows like cloud. Victoria's smile faltered at matter-of-fact observation. Child shouldn't find sleeping through night remarkable. Breakfast ready whenever you are. As Victoria turned to leave, Grace blurted questions circling her mind. Why are you doing this? Victoria paused. Doing what? Letting me stay, giving me food in this room. Grace's dark eyes serious beyond years. Nobody does something for nothing. Cynicism in that voice made Victoria's heart ache. Sometimes people just want to help. Not in my experience. Downstairs, formal dining room set for breakfast. Fine china, silver cutlery, crystal glasses. Harrison sat at head reading financial reports. Wall Street Journal folded beside plate. Ah, there you are. I've been reviewing quarterly projections. Where's Oliver? Victoria interrupted, gently steering away from business. Mrs. Winters took him to park, his ears completely recovered, which is remarkable. Victoria sat across from grandfather. We need to talk about Grace. Harrison set papers aside, full attention. Rare occurrence. Yes, I've made inquiries. He pulled out folder, always prepared. Her mother, Dr. Maya Coleman, was nurse at Massachusetts General. Excellent reputation. Died 14 months ago from pancreatic cancer. Grace homeless since then? Not immediately. They had small apartment. Paid through month of mother's death. Grace stayed alone until landlord discovered her and contacted child services. 6 years old, living alone. She ran away from first foster placement within 3 days. Been on streets since. Harrison closed folder. Question is, what do we do now? Emergency guardianship is temporary. Victoria met his gaze directly. I want to adopt her. Harrison's coffee cup froze halfway to lips. You're 25, unmarried. Life consists of charity galas. What do you know about raising traumatized child? What did you know about raising me when my parents died? Victoria challenged. You were 67, widowed, spent life in boardrooms, yet here I am. Complicated emotion flickered across Harrison's face. Pride mixed with something softer. Memory of taking in 10-year-old granddaughter after accident killed her parents. Fair point. Small figure appeared in the doorway. Grace in simple blue dress, hanging loosely, white socks slouching. Am I late? Anxious about breaking unknown rules. Not at all. Victoria pulled out chair. Come sit. What would you like? Grace climbed on chair, eyes widening at sideboard. Pancakes, eggs three ways, bacon, sausage, fresh fruit, pastries. I can choose anything? Within reason, Harrison interjected dryly. Warmth in voice now. Though I'd advise against combining chocolate croissants with maple syrup. Grace stared, then giggled. Sound like bells. You're funny when you're not scary. Harrison raised eyebrow, but said nothing. Ghost of smile on lips. As Victoria helped Grace fill plate, girl ate with careful restraint, small deliberate bites, dabbing mouth with napkin, trying to prove she had manners, that she belonged. Mr. Thornton, Grace said between bites, do you know how rich you are? Harrison looked up, startled. I have general idea of net worth. But do you know exactly? To the dollar? Not to the dollar. Financial affairs rather complex. Grace nodded thoughtfully. Mama always knew exactly what we had, down to penny, kept little notebook. Harrison's expression softened. Very responsible. She said it's more important to know what you have when you don't have much. Grace speared strawberry. Do you have rules I should know? Abrupt subject change caught both off guard. Rules? Harrison repeated. Yeah, things I can't touch, places I can't go. Practical tone. Shelter lady had lots of rules. Harrison cleared throat. Well, usual expectations apply. Respect for property. What grandfather means, Victoria interrupted gently, is we want you to feel at home. You're not guest worrying about invisible rules. Grace looked skeptical. Everyone has rules. Indeed, Harrison agreed, approval in eyes. Most important rule in this house is honesty. We value truth even when uncomfortable. That's easy, Grace shrugged. Lying takes too much work. Mama said honest people sleep better. Soft chime from foyer. Whitmore appeared. Mr. Thornton, Mr. Miguel Santos is here. Says it concerns Miss Grace. Harrison and Victoria exchanged surprised glances. Show him in. Grace suddenly tense. Is he taking me away? Victoria quickly reassured. No, Mr. Santos was kind. Probably checking you're okay. Miguel appeared in the doorway, uncomfortable in opulent surroundings, twisting worn cap. But eyes found Grace immediately, softened with relief, seeing her clean and fed and safe. Apologized for intrusion. Addressing Harrison but glancing at Grace. But there's something you need to know about Grace. Something important her mother told me before she died. Temperature seemed to drop. Harrison stood slowly. Perhaps we should speak privately. I want to hear too. Grace interrupted. Small voice surprisingly firm. If it's about me, I should know. Adults exchanged glances. Finally, Victoria nodded. She's right, we promise honesty. Harrison sighed. Very well. This way, Mr. Santos. The study was exactly what one expected. Walnut paneling, leather-bound books, massive desks that reportedly belonged to J.P. Morgan. Miguel perched on armchair edge. Harrison behind desk. Victoria beside Grace on leather sofa. Girl's legs dangling above floor. Now, Harrison steepled fingers. What's this important information? Miguel took deep breath. First, want you to know I've been looking out for her since her mother died. Dr. Coleman was good person, dedicated nurse. Harrison nodded. Though I'm curious about your connection. She treated me with respect, Miguel said simply. Not all medical staff extend courtesy to janitorial workers. When she fell ill, I tried to help. After she passed, I kept eye on Grace. But I worked 3 jobs. Couldn't offer home. We appreciate your concern, Victoria said gently. But you mentioned something specific. Miguel nodded, expression serious. 2 days before Dr. Coleman died, she asked to speak privately. Very weak. Could barely lift head, but extremely agitated. Kept looking at door like expecting someone dangerous. He reached into jacket. She made me promise to watch over Grace. Said there were people who might not have her best interests at heart. He withdrew small flash drive, held it like something precious or dangerous. She said if anything happened, anything suspicious, find someone powerful enough to protect Grace. Suspicious? Victoria echoed. I thought she died of cancer. She did, Miguel confirmed, but she seemed afraid, not just of dying, of something else. Grace spoke up. Mama was scared at end, kept checking door, even in hospital when too weak to stand. Harrison took flash drive. examining with scrutiny of man who built fortune on attention to detail. Have you looked at this? Miguel shook head. Don't own computer, but Dr. Coleman was insistent. Said it contained information that could put Grace in danger. He leaned forward. One more thing. Last time I saw her alive, she whispered something strange. Her exact words were, "It's about the clinical trials. They can't know she was there." Heavy silence fell. Victoria tightened arm around Grace. Clinical trials, Harrison repeated thoughtfully. Was Dr. Coleman in experimental treatment? Not that I know. By time I met her, she was in hospice. Nothing more doctors could do. Harrison rose, walked to wall panel which slid back, revealing hidden computer setup, state of art. Without word, he inserted flash drive. Password protected. He looked at Miguel. Did she give indication of password? Miguel shook head helplessly. All eyes turned to Grace, staring at screen with intensity odd for her age. Grace, Victoria asked gently, do you know what password your mother might have used? Girl quiet for long moment. Tried Grace Coleman, 0212, my birthday. Mama used it for everything. Harrison typed, shook head. Incorrect. What about Maya Grace 2015? Miguel offered. Another failure. Wait, Grace sat up straight. Try Blackbird 47. Harrison raised eyebrow but complied. Screen changed immediately. Files populating. How'd you know? Victoria asked, surprised and unsettled. Mama sang Blackbird to me every night. Beatles song about being brave when world's dark. And 47 was her favorite number. Most beautiful prime number, she said. Harrison already scanning files, expression growing grave with each page. Medical records, research notes, suspicious financial transfers. He looked up sharply. Victoria, take Grace upstairs, show her library, let her pick books. No, Grace protested, rare defiance. I want to know about Mama, about me. Harrison hesitated, torn between protecting child and respecting her right to know. Perhaps compromise, Victoria suggested. You and Mr. Santos review first, then share what's appropriate. Grace didn't look satisfied. But before she could object, study door burst open. Oliver ran in, face alight. Grace, come see, found frog in garden, real live frog. Boy grabbed Grace's hand, pulling with 2-year-old enthusiasm. For first time since discussing mother's flash drive, Grace looked childlike, distracted by simple joy of newly discovered amphibian. She let herself be tugged toward door, though she cast lingering look at screen. This isn't over, she informed Harrison with adult seriousness that almost made him smile. No, he agreed quietly. It isn't. As children disappeared with Mrs. Winters, Harrison turned back to screen, usual inscrutable mask, but Victoria saw tension in shoulders. What's on that drive? Harrison's jaw tightened. Something very troubling, Mr. Santos. You should see this. Dr. Coleman trusted you. He turned screen so both could see. Medical records filled display. Names, dates, test results, highlighted sections made Victoria's blood run cold. If these documents are authentic, and I suspect they are, Dr. Coleman didn't just witness something illegal. Harrison pointed to text. She was gathering evidence against one of the most powerful pharmaceutical companies in the world, Neurobiotech Industries. What were they doing? Miguel whispered. Harrison scrolled, clinical trials for new medication, neuroregenerator to repair auditory nerve damage, restore hearing. That sounds good, Victoria said slowly. Why secrecy? Because, Harrison's voice went cold. They were falsifying data. Drug wasn't working. Worse, causing serious side effects they covered up. Neurological damage, memory loss, seizures, paying regulators to look away. Miguel crossed himself, automatic childhood gesture. There's more. Harrison opened another folder. Financial records showing bribes, emails discussing cover-up, and worst of all, he trailed off, staring at screen with expression Victoria had never seen. Something close to horror. What? She demanded. Harrison looked at her, then at door where Grace disappeared. Voice dropped to whisper. The test subjects, the people they experimented on. They were children. Words hung like poison. Grace said she remembered being at hospital with her mother. Victoria said slowly, puzzle pieces clicking with sickening clarity. Seeing someone have seizure during test, doctor saying it wouldn't go in report. Harrison nodded grimly. Dr. Coleman wasn't just witnessing malpractice. She was documenting crimes against children, and if Neurobiotech discovered she had this evidence, He didn't finish. They understood. Multi-billion-dollar company would do anything to protect secrets. We need authorities, Miguel said firmly. FBI. We will, Harrison agreed. But first ensure Grace's safety. If they know Coleman had daughter, if they suspect that daughter might have information, chill ran down Victoria's spine. You think they're looking for her. That's why Coleman was so afraid. I think, Harrison said carefully, we may have just made Grace target by bringing her here, to very public, very visible location. As if on cue, door opened. Whitmore, normally composed face showing slightest alarm. Mr. Thornton, forgive interruption. Security detected unauthorized individual on property near South Garden where Master Oliver and Miss Grace are currently playing. Harrison was already moving. Phone out, barking orders. Preston, lock down property. Medical team standby. Get those children inside now. Victoria ran, not caring about protocol, just running toward Garden where two small children played. Unaware shadows had found them. Victoria's feet pounded against marble floors. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Behind her, Harrison moved with speed that defied his 73 years. Preston and 3 security guards flanked them. Weapons drawn, the South Garden stretched before them. Perfectly manicured hedges, flowering magnolias, a playground imported from Sweden, and 2 small children kneeling beside a fountain, completely unaware. Oliver! Victoria's scream cut through afternoon air. The boy looked up, confused by panic in his aunt's voice. Grace beside him, hands cupped around something. Probably that frog Oliver had been so excited about. Then the world exploded. The sound came first, sharp cracks splitting peaceful air. Birds erupted from trees in panic. The fountain beside them suddenly bloomed red. Not water, blood. Oliver crumpled. His small body hit grass like a puppet with cut strings. The dinosaur shirt he loved, the one Grace had admired that morning, now stained crimson, spreading across green cotton. Grace screamed, height piercing, the sound of childhood ending in an instant. Mrs. Winters threw herself over both children, her body a shield. Security guards formed tight circle, weapons tracking trees, searching for the shooter. Victoria reached them in seconds, dropped to her knees, hands shaking as she examined Oliver. Blood everywhere, too much blood. But he was breathing, crying. That meant alive. That meant hope. Oliver, baby, look at me. Look at Auntie Victoria. The boy's eyes found hers, wide with terror and confusion. Hurts, Auntie Victoria, it hurts. I know, sweetheart, I know, but you're going to be okay. You hear me? You're going to be fine. Harrison was there, phone pressed to ear, voice like steel cutting through chaos. I don't care what traffic looks like. Get the medical team here now. Helicopter, if necessary. My grandson has been shot. Shot. The word hung in air like poison. Grace had gone completely still. Statue frozen beside fountain. Her eyes locked on Oliver's blood, on her hands, covered in red because she tried to stop the bleeding. 6 years old and covered in blood. Grace, Victoria reached for her. Grace, honey, look at me. But the girl couldn't look away from her hands. I did this. Voice flat, emotionless. Shock settling in. They were aiming for me. Oliver got in the way. I killed him. No. Victoria gripped the girl's shoulders, forced eye contact. No, you did not do this. Evil people did this. You hear me? This is not your fault. But Grace's eyes stayed empty, the light that had begun to return since yesterday. That tentative hope, extinguished like candle in hurricane. The medical team arrived in 4 minutes. Paramedics with equipment. Dr. Chen, the family's private physician, in helicopter from his practice downtown. They worked with efficient precision. Shoulder wound, Dr. Chen announced, fingers probing gently. Bullet grazed the subclavian region, 2 inches left, and we'd be having very different conversation. He's lucky, incredibly lucky. Lucky. Oliver was lucky, shot in his own garden, and they were calling him lucky. Will he? Harrison couldn't finish the question. For the first time in 50 years of navigating corporate warfare, words failed him. He'll recover fully, physically. Dr. Chen looked up, met Harrison's eyes. But trauma like this, at his age, the psychological impact, he let sentence hang. They stabilized Oliver quickly. Professional efficiency. Within 20 minutes, they had him on stretcher, heading to private medical facility across town. Secure, guarded, where questions wouldn't be asked and privacy maintained. Harrison rode with them, hand never leaving Oliver's. Leaving. The boy had stopped crying. Now he just stared at ceiling. Silent. That silence somehow worse than screams. Victoria stayed behind, arms around Grace. The girl hadn't moved, hadn't spoken since her confession. Just knelt in grass staring at blood-stained hands. Come on, sweetheart. Victoria lifted her. Grace didn't resist. Didn't help either. Dead weight in Victoria's arms. Let's get you inside, get you cleaned up. Preston approached, face grim. Miss Victoria, we swept the perimeter. Whoever it was is gone. We found the position, though. Rooftop 3 buildings over. Professional setup. Scope. Suppressor. This wasn't random. I know. Victoria's voice came out harder than she'd intended. They're after her. After what her mother knew. What Grace might have seen. Mr. Thornton wants you and Miss Grace at the private facility within the hour. He's arranging transport to the airport from there. Switzerland. The chalet is being secured as we speak. Switzerland. Running. Again, Grace had been right. Always running. At the medical facility, they cleaned Grace up in bathroom attached to family waiting area. Victoria washed blood from small hands. Gentle, methodical. Grace stood motionless. Doll being posed. Talk to me, Victoria pleaded. Say something, anything. I should leave. First words in an hour. Flat, lifeless. If I leave, Oliver will be safe. You'll all be safe. Absolutely not. People die around me. Mama died. Now Oliver almost died. I'm poison. Victoria knelt, eye level with the child. Listen to me very carefully. Your mother died of cancer. Not because of you. Oliver was shot because evil people made evil choices. Not because of you. You are not poison. You are not a curse. You are a little girl who deserves to be protected. Then why does everyone get hurt? The question hit Victoria like physical blow, because she had no good answer. Just platitudes that wouldn't comfort. So instead, she pulled Grace close. Let the girl bury face in her shoulder. Felt small body finally start to shake with sobs. Harrison found them like that 20 minutes later. He looked decades older than he had that morning. The shooting had stripped away his carefully maintained armor. Left only exhausted grandfather, who'd failed again. How is he? Victoria asked. Resting, sedated. Dr. Chen says the physical damage is minimal. The bullet barely grazed him, but Harrison's voice cracked. He asked for his mother, Michael's wife, dead 3 years now. He doesn't remember her, but trauma brought it out. He asked for his mother, and I had no answer. Victoria had never seen her grandfather cry, not at his wife's funeral, not at Michael's, but now tears slipped down weathered cheeks. This is my fault, he said quietly. I brought her into our home, made her visible. Target. I should have been more careful. Stop, Victoria's voice sharp. That's what Grace just said, that she's to blame. You going to let that little girl carry this guilt alone? Or are we going to put blame where it belongs, on the people who pulled the trigger? Harrison wiped his eyes, old habits reasserting. You're right, of course you're right. He looked at Grace, still curled against Victoria. I'm sorry, child. I failed to protect you both. But I won't fail again. We leave in 1 hour. The jet is being prepared. Switzerland is secure. We'll be safe there. But Grace pulled back, looked at him with eyes too old for her face. Will we? Will we really be safe, or will they just follow us there too? The question hung unanswered. 1 hour later, they were in the air. The Thornton family jet streaking over Atlantic. Luxury cabin with leather seats and mahogany trim. Normally a pleasure, now felt like expensive coffin. Oliver slept in the rear cabin, medical equipment monitoring his vitals. Dr. Chen and 2 nurses keeping watch. Harrison sat beside his grandson, hand on the boy's arm, hand on the yaw, as if physical contact could keep him safe. Victoria and Grace sat in the main cabin. The girl hadn't said a word since takeoff, just stared out the window at the clouds below. Grace, Victoria spoke softly. Do you remember when your mother was sick? Did she ever talk about the people at the hospital? The ones doing the tests? Grace didn't look away from window. Some. She said they were bad people, doing bad things. She said she had to stop them, but she was scared. Scared of what? That they'd hurt me if they knew I'd seen. Now Grace turned, and she was right. Mama's always right. Even when she's dead, she's right. The flat certainty in that statement chilled Victoria. Grace, I need you to think very carefully. When you were at the hospital with your mother, did you see anything? Anything that might tell us who these people are? The girl's brow furrowed. Concentration. There was a tall doctor. Glasses. He had weird laugh, like hiccup at the end. He's the one who said not to put things in report. Do you remember his name? Head shake. But he had letters on his coat, like initials. M.A. I remember because Mama's initials were M.C., and I thought they were almost the same. M.A. Not much to go on, but more than they'd had an hour ago. Captain Reynolds' voice crackled over intercom. Miss Victoria, could you come to the cockpit, please? Something in his tone made Victoria's stomach drop. She squeezed Grace's hand. Stay here, I'll be right back. The cockpit door opened to reveal Reynolds and co-pilot staring at radar screens. Both looked tense. What's wrong? Reynolds pointed at display. We have company, 2 aircraft, appeared about 20 minutes ago. Maintaining exact distance and matching every course correction we make. Victoria's mouth went dry. Could they be coincidence? Over the Atlantic? Matching our exact flight path? Reynolds shook his head. I've been flying for 30 years. This is deliberate tracking. Can we outrun them? Not indefinitely, and we're 5 hours from Swiss airspace. Even if we divert to closer landing, they can follow. I've tried hailing them. No response. Victoria pulled out satellite phone, hands shaking as she dialed Harrison's private line. He answered on first ring. Victoria, what is it? We're being followed. 2 planes. Silence. Then quiet fury in Harrison's voice. Of course we are. They're not going to let this go. Not with what Maya Coleman knew, not with Grace as witness. What do we do? Keep flying. I'll make calls. See if I can get military escort, or at least find out who these planes belong to. But even as he said it, Victoria heard doubt. Whoever was behind this had resources. Money, connections, the kind that could track private jets across oceans and shoot children in supposedly as secure compounds. She returned to main cabin. Grace looked up, read her face immediately. They found us. How did you? Because Mama said they always find you. That's what she said before she died. They always find you eventually. Victoria sat down, pulled Grace close. Then we'll deal with it when they do. Together. 3 hours later, everything went to hell. The first shot hit the port engine, not enough to bring them down, just enough to cripple. The plane shuddered violently, alarms screaming. Reynolds fought controls. Hydraulic failure, co-pilot shouted. Losing altitude. Victoria grabbed Grace, strapped them both in tight, held the girl's hand. It's going to be okay. Reynolds is the best. He'll get us down safe. But Grace wasn't crying, wasn't panicking, just holding tight and watching window, accepting fate with the resignation of someone who'd learned young that bad things happen, regardless of hope. Harrison burst from rear cabin, Oliver in his arms. The boy awake now, crying. Dr. Chen right behind with medical bag. How bad? Harrison demanded. Bad enough. Reynolds' voice strained. We need to land. Now, nearest option is Santa Maria Island. Azores. Small airport, but we can make it if this bird holds together. Do it. The descent was nightmare. Plane shaking. Metal groaning. Grace's hand crushing Victoria's. Outside window, one of the pursuing planes kept pace. Watching. Making sure they knew this wasn't over. The landing strip of Santa Maria appeared through clouds. Tiny. Too tiny. Reynolds brought them in hard. With tires screaming, metal shrieking, the plane skidded. Kept skidding. Victoria could see the end of runway approaching too fast. They stopped 3 feet from the edge. Silence. Then Oliver crying, Grace breathing too fast. Harrison barking orders into phone. We need off this plane, Victoria said. Now, before those other planes land. Reynolds nodded, already unbuckling. Service exit, less visible than main door. They moved quickly. Harrison carrying Oliver, Victoria with Grace. Dr. Chen and nurses gathering equipment. Reynolds led them to rear exit. Airport emergency vehicles approached. But they looked confused. This wasn't scheduled landing. No one knew what to do. There, Reynolds pointed to maintenance hangars at far end of field. We can hide there. Figure out next move. They ran. Odd procession of wealth and privilege fleeing across tarmac. Harrison in $1,000 suit carrying crying toddler. Victoria's designer shoes never meant for running. Grace keeping pace despite exhaustion. The hangar was dim, smelling of oil and metal. A worker looked up, surprised. Middle-aged man in coveralls. Name tag said, Yosemite, please. Victoria stepped forward. We need help. Those men, she pointed at the pursuing planes now requesting landing clearance. They're trying to hurt us. Hurt this little girl. Jose looked at Grace. Something in his weathered face softened. My daughter is 6'2", same dark eyes. He glanced at the planes. You can stay here, but not long. They will search everywhere. We need a boat. Harrison pulled out wallet. I'll pay whatever you want. We just need off this island. Jose held up hand. Money is not everything, senor. My brother Antonio has fishing boat. Small, not fast, but can take you along coast, away from airport. Why would you help us? Victoria asked, suspicious of kindness after everything. Because, Jose said simply, my mother was nurse, like the little one's mother, I think. I hear you talking earlier. Some things more important than money. My mother taught me that. Grace looked at Jose, really looked at him, then did something unexpected. She walked over and hugged him, this stranger who'd shown kindness. Thank you, voice muffled against his coveralls, for having a good mother too. Jose's eyes glistened. He patted her head gently. Come. Antonio's boat is at the harbor. 10 minutes walking. But we go now. They moved through back streets of Tiny Island Town. Tourist season was ending. Few people around. Those who were paid little attention to bedraggled group. The harbor smelled of fish and salt and diesel. Antonio's boat was exactly what Jose had described. Small, weathered, nets piled on deck. But the engine turned over with healthy rumble. Antonio was older than Jose, maybe 60. He looked at them with shrewd eyes, took in expensive clothes, frightened child, made calculation. How much trouble are you bringing to my boat? A lot, Harrison said honestly. But we'll be off it within hours. I have another vessel meeting us. We just need to get away from the airport. Antonio nodded slowly. I take you, but not for money. He pointed at Grace. For her. Children should not have to run from evil men. The boat pulled away from dock. Slow but steady. Oliver had stopped crying. Now just clung to Harrison, face buried in his grandfather's shoulder. Grace stood at rail, watching island shrink behind them. Victoria joined her. How are you holding up? Shrug. I'm always holding up. That's what I do. Hold up until I can't anymore. Grace, you're 6. You shouldn't have to be this strong. Mama was strong right up until she wasn't. Then she died. So I guess I have to be strong until I die too. The matter-of-fact acceptance of mortality from a first grader made Victoria want to scream. Or cry. Or both. You're not going to die. None of us are. Your grandfather is the most powerful man I know. He won't let anything happen to you. Mama was powerful too. Smart, knew medicine. Didn't save her. Before Victoria could respond, Antonio called out, Senorita, you should come see this. On the horizon a vessel approached, but not the fishing boats or tourist craft that dotted these waters. This was sleek, fast, purpose-built. Your ride? Antonio asked. Harrison pulled out phone. Checked GPS coordinates. Yes, that's Katerina, my security specialist. Security specialist, Antonio repeated. Rich people have such polite words for soldiers. The yacht pulled alongside, and yacht wasn't quite right word. This was military craft disguised as pleasure boat, all sharp angles and dark paint. A woman appeared on deck, 40-something. Gray hair cut military short, eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Thornton, her accent was Eastern European, Russian maybe. We should move quickly. I have picked up chatter. They know your location. Harrison nodded. Everyone on board now? No. They transferred quickly, Antonio refusing payment, just touching Grace's head gently. Be safe, Pequeña. Below deck, the yacht revealed its true nature. Banks of computers, communications equipment, weapons lockers. This wasn't transportation. This was mobile command center. This is Catherine Vasilyev, Harrison introduced, former Russian special forces. Now works exclusively for me in situations where regular security is insufficient. Like being hunted by pharmaceutical companies? Victoria said dryly. Precisely. Katerina's English was perfect if heavily accented. We have secure satellite link to FBI. They are aware of situation and investigating. But investigation takes time. Our job is keeping you alive until then. Grace had found a corner, curled up small, trying to be invisible. Oliver was with Dr. Chen, getting vitals checked again. Harrison stood at communications console with Katerina, reviewing threat assessments. Victoria sat beside Grace. We're safe now. This boat is fast, secure. That's what Mama said about our apartment. Then the bad men came. What bad men? Grace looked up. After Mama died, I was alone in an apartment. Then men came. Broke in, a hidden closet. They took Mama's laptop, her files. I could hear them talking. They said something about loose ends. You never mentioned this before. You never asked. Adults never ask the right questions. Fair point. Victoria filed that away for future reference, if they had a future. Katerina's voice cut through cabin. Mr. Thornton, we have problem. Everyone looked up. On the screen, radar showed another vessel, approaching fast. The men from the planes? Harrison asked. Most likely. They have fast patrol boat, military grade. They will catch us in 30 minutes. Can we outrun them? Katerina smiled. Wolf smile with no humor. We can try. She flipped switches. The yacht surged forward. Suddenly, the gentle rocking became aggressive speed, hull rising partially from water on hydrofoils. Mr. Thornton spares no expense, Katerina said, pushing throttles to maximum. But they also have money. We will see whose is better. They flew across ocean, literally flew, the hydrofoils lifting them until they were nearly skimming surface. Behind them, the patrol boat matched speed, gaining slowly. They are faster, Katerina admitted, but I have tricks. She executed sharp turn. Physics pressed them sideways. Then another turn, weaving pattern designed to make targeting difficult. The first shot proved how difficult. Bullet hit water 50 feet to their left. Then another, closer. Everyone down! Victoria threw herself over Grace and Oliver, shielding them with her body. The way Mrs. Winters had in the garden. Instinct overriding fear. Harrison crouched beside communications console, still on phone, still calling in favors. I don't care what international waters means. This is attempted murder of American citizens. Get someone here. But help was hours away. The patrol boat was minutes. Another shot. This one hit the stern, metal shrieking, alarms blaring. Katerina cursed in Russian. Hydraulics damaged, losing speed. The patrol boat pulled alongside, close enough now to see faces. 4 men, armed, professional. The kind you hired when you needed problems permanently solved. A voice boomed over a loudspeaker. Shut down your engines. Prepare to be boarded. We only want the girl. No one else needs to be hurt. Only want the girl, Grace repeated. Hollow voice. See, I told you I'm poison. No, Harrison moved to her, knelt down. This man who commanded billions, kneeling before 6-year-old. They want what you know, what your mother knew, that makes you dangerous to them. Not poison, dangerous. There's a difference, or it is. Not to me, there isn't. The patrol boat was coming alongside. Grappling hooks ready. 4 men against 2 women, 1 elderly man, injured toddler, traumatized child, and medical staff. The math wasn't good. Katerina, Harrison's voice was steel. Whatever you need to do, she nodded, pulled pistol from holster. I delay them. You get little girl to safe room. Forward cabin has reinforced compartment. Code is 4723. Lock yourselves in. What about you? I am paid to handle situations like this. Now go. Victoria grabbed Grace. Harrison scooped up Oliver. They ran forward. Behind them, sounds of grappling hooks hitting deck. Boots landing. Katerina's voice shouting in Russian. Then gunshots. Too many gunshots. The safe room was exactly as described. Hidden panel in forward cabin. Harrison punched code. Door slid open. Tiny space. Reinforced walls. Supplies. Communications gear. Inside, both of you. Victoria climbed in with Grace and Oliver. What about you? I'm going to buy Katerina time. Harrison pulled out his own weapon. Victoria hadn't even known he carried one. Lock this door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me or Katerina. You understand? Grandfather, I failed Michael, failed to protect what mattered most. I will not fail again. Now lock the door. He was gone before she could argue. The door slid shut. Locked. Victoria heard magnetic seals engage. They were sealed in metal coffin. Safe. Maybe. Or trapped. Grace had gone completely still again. That 1,000-yard stare. Oliver whimpered. Victoria pulled both children close. It's okay. Your grandfather knows what he's doing. No, he doesn't, Grace said flatly. Nobody knows what they're doing. We're all just pretending until we die. Dark philosophy from first grader. But Victoria couldn't argue. Not right now. Through the walls, muffled sounds of conflict. Shouting, gunshots. Something heavy hitting deck. Then silence. Terrible silence. Minutes passed like hours. Oliver had fallen asleep. Exhaustion and sedatives finally claiming him. Grace just stared at wall. Victoria checked the communications panel. Satellite phone showing active connection. She could call for help, but help was still hours away. Then the door mechanism beeped, someone entering the code. Victoria tensed, pushed children behind her, prepared for the worst. The door slid open. Harrison stood there, blood on his shirt. Not his own, she hoped. Face grim but alive. It's over, for now. Behind him, Katerina nursed bloody arm, but she was upright, functional. 3 of them unconscious. 4th got away on their boat, but it will be hours before he returns with reinforcements. What do we do now? Victoria asked. Now, Harrison helped them out of safe room. We get as far from here as possible before those reinforcements arrive. On deck, 3 men lay zip-tied, unconscious but breathing. Katerina had been efficient but not lethal. Professional courtesy, perhaps, or legal complications. Either way, they'd live. The yacht was damaged but mobile. Katerina got engines running, not full speed, but enough. They limped away from the scene, heading toward international shipping lanes where help might find them. Grace walked to the rail, looked back at the disabled patrol boat, then at the 3 unconscious men. They'll keep coming. Not a question, statement of fact. They'll always keep coming until they get me or until I'm dead. Harrison joined her at the rail. For a moment, he just sound there. 2 figures silhouetted against setting sun, billionaire and orphan, power and vulnerability. Then we make them stop, Harrison said finally. Your mother gathered evidence. We'll use it. Destroy them before they can destroy us. How? I don't know yet, but I built an empire from nothing. Crushed competitors who thought they were untouchable. These people, these neurobiotech criminals, they think money and violence make them safe. They're wrong. He looked down at her. I failed your mother, failed to protect her, failed to see the danger until too late. But I won't fail you. That's a promise. And I don't break promises. Grace studied his face, searching for lies, finding none. Okay, just that. Okay, simple faith from child who'd lost almost everyone. The sun set over Atlantic, painting sky in oranges and reds, beautiful and terrible. Victoria joined them at rail, Oliver sleeping in her arms. FBI is sending aircraft, she reported. 2 hours out. They'll escort us to secure location. Good. Harrison didn't take eyes off horizon. And I've made other calls. Judge Harrison is issuing warrants. My lawyers are filing injunctions. By morning, Neurobiotech's bank accounts will be frozen. Their executives under investigation. Will that stop them? No, but it will slow them down, make them scared. Scared people make mistakes, and when they make mistakes, we'll be waiting. Katerina appeared, arm bandaged now. We have another situation. Of course they did, because this day wasn't done torturing them yet. What now? She pointed at radar. Helicopter, Coast Guard markings. But, she zoomed in, enhanced image on screen. I do not recognize that model, not standard Coast Guard. Harrison's jaw tightened. How long? 10 minutes. Can we outrun? Not in our condition. They were out of options, out of time, out of luck. Grace looked up at Harrison. You said you don't break promises. I don't. Then keep it. Whatever happens, keep me safe from them. Don't let them make me into science experiment. Don't let them use what Mama knew. Harrison knelt, eye level with her. I swear it. On Michael's memory, on everything I am, you will not become their tool. The helicopter appeared on horizon, growing larger, coming fast. Victoria held Oliver tighter. Katerina checked weapons. Harrison stood tall, ready for whatever came next. Grace just watched sky, accepting fate with the weary resignation of someone twice her age. The helicopter descended. Closer, closer, its spotlight blinding in gathering dark. Voice over loudspeaker. This is FBI. Mr. Thornton, we're here to escort you to safety. Please prepare for extraction. For a moment, no one moved. Too shocked, too afraid to believe. Then Harrison's phone rang. He answered, listened, face transforming from grim to relieved. It's real. That's Agent Sarah Chen. She's lead investigator on neurobiotech case. She's been building case for months. Your mother's files. He looked at Grace. They're the missing piece she needed. The helicopter lowered rope ladder. FBI agents descended. Professional, armed, actually there to help. Agent Chen was first down, an Asian American, 40-something. Hard eyes that softened slightly when she saw Grace. Miss Coleman, I'm sorry about your mother. Dr. Maya Coleman was a brave woman. What she gathered will help us put very bad people in prison for a very long time. Grace said nothing, just stared. We have secure facility prepared, medical care for Oliver, protection for all of you. This isn't over, but you're safe now for tonight at least. You're safe, They were lifted one by one. Grace went last, looking back at yacht, at ocean, at the patrol boat now far behind. This day had started with hope, ended with blood and terror. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, more danger. But tonight she was alive. They were all alive. That would have to be enough. The helicopter banked east, toward land, toward temporary safety. Grace pressed face against window, watching sun finish setting, painting world in blood colors. 6 years old and already she knew. The darkness was coming. It had found her, would keep finding her, until someone stopped it permanently. She just hoped Harrison Thornton was as powerful as everyone said, because otherwise, tomorrow would be even worse than today. And today had been unimaginably bad. The helicopter disappeared into night, leaving behind empty ocean, damaged yacht, unconscious men, and the promise of war between billionaire and pharmaceutical giant. A war that would be fought over one small girl who'd seen too much, who knew too much, who'd survived too much. Grace Coleman, 6 years old, orphan, witness, target, and possibly the only person who could bring down an empire built on children's pain. But first she had to survive long enough to tell her story. And as the helicopter raced toward shore, with danger pursuing and unknown threats ahead, survival seemed like an impossible dream. Yet she'd survived this long, against odds no child should face. Perhaps that made her stronger than anyone realized. Perhaps that made her exactly what was needed. Or perhaps it just made her a very unlucky little girl, caught in a nightmare with no end in sight. Time would tell. And time was running out. The Swiss chalet appeared through morning mist like something from a fairy tale. Stone walls 3 feet thick, windows that could stop bullets disguised as rustic charm, red shutters and flower boxes hiding security cameras. Alpine perfection wrapped around a fortress. Grace pressed her face against the helicopter window. Below, mountains stretched forever. Snow-capped peaks touching clouds. So different from Boston's urban sprawl, so removed from danger, or so they hoped. 3 weeks had passed since the attack at sea. 3 weeks of moving between safe houses, FBI protection, endless questions, medical examinations for Oliver, psychological evaluations no 6-year-old should need. Now Switzerland, final refuge, where international law made American pharmaceutical companies think twice. The helicopter touched down on manicured lawn. Harrison exited first, then Victoria carrying Oliver. The boy's shoulder was healing, but nightmares remained. He'd stopped talking for a week after the shooting. Just pointed and nodded, as if words had become too dangerous. Grace came last, moving slowly, like old woman instead of child. The weight of 3 weeks visible in slumped shoulders, in eyes that scanned constantly for threats. "Welcome home," Harrison said, though his voice held no warmth, just exhaustion. At least for now. The chalet interior matched exterior, rustic elegance hiding modern security. Whitmore had arrived 2 days earlier, preparing everything. He greeted them at door with usual formality. "Good afternoon, rooms are prepared. Mrs. Peterson has prepared lunch. I trust the journey was uneventful." "As uneventful as being hunted by corporate assassins allows," Victoria replied, edge in her voice. 3 weeks of fear had worn them all down. Grace moved through house like ghost, not touching anything, not speaking, just observing with those 2 old eyes. Her room overlooked garden, mountains beyond, beautiful, peaceful, safe, all the things she'd stopped believing in. Victoria found her there an hour later, standing at window, motionless. "Grace, you need to eat something. You barely touched breakfast." "Not hungry." "You haven't been hungry for 3 weeks. Dr. Chen is worried." "I'm worried." Silence. Then quietly. "If I'm hungry, it means I'm still alive. Still a target. Easier to not be hungry." The logic was broken, but understandable. Victoria sat on bed, padded space beside her. "Come here, please." Grace came, reluctant, sat like she might flee any moment. "What happened to your mother? What's happening now?" "None of it is your fault. Everyone keeps saying that, but people keep getting hurt around me. Oliver got shot, Katerina got shot, that boat driver almost died helping us. How is that not my fault?" Because evil people made evil choices. You're just a child. You don't have that kind of power. Then why does it feel like I do? Victoria had no answer, just pulled Grace close, felt the girl's thin body, still not eating enough, still carrying weight no child should bear. Downstairs, Harrison stood in his study, phone pressed to ear, conversation tense. I don't care about jurisdictional complications. Dr. Marcus Ashford shot at children in my garden. That's attempted murder. Arrest him. Agent Chen's voice crackled through speaker. We're building the case, Mr. Thornton. Your contacts have been helpful freezing assets, creating pressure. But we need airtight evidence for arrest warrants. You have Maya Coleman's files, detailed documentation of illegal trials, falsified data, children who died. We have files from a flash drive. Defense will argue chain of custody, claim fabrication. We need corroboration, witnesses. Grace is a witness. Grace is 6 years old. Defense will destroy her on the stand, make her seem confused, coached. We need adult witnesses, people from inside neurobiotech willing to testify. Harrison's jaw tightened. So we do nothing? Let them hunt us while you build your perfect case? We're doing everything legally possible. I have agents embedded at neurobiotech, interviewing former employees, following money trails, but this takes time. Time we may not have. He ended the call, frustration boiling over. For 73 years, he'd solved problems with money and influence, made things happen through sheer will. Now bureaucracy and legal procedure stood between him and protecting his family. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Grace stood in doorway, small figure dwarfed by massive doorframe. Can I come in? Of course. She entered hesitantly. This room reminded her of that day, flash drive, and discovering her mother's secrets, everything spiraling from there. I heard you on phone. The FBI needs more evidence. You shouldn't worry about that. Let the adults handle it. But I can help. I remember things. From when Mama took me to hospital. Faces, names on badges, things they said. Harrison studied her. This child who'd been forced to grow up too fast. The FBI might want to interview you again. Would you be willing? If it helps catch them, if it makes us safe. There's no guarantee it will. I know, but doing nothing guarantees we stay scared forever. Mama taught me that. She could have stayed quiet, kept her job, but she did something because it was right. Even though it was dangerous, Harrison saw Maya Coleman in that moment. In Grace's determined expression, in the set of her jaw. This was her mother's daughter. Brave beyond reason. Then we'll call Agent Chen, set up proper interview. But Grace, he waited until she met his eyes. What you're doing, standing up to these people, that takes courage. Your mother would be very proud. Small smile, first real one in 3 weeks. You think so? I know so. Days blurred together in the chalet, Oliver slowly recovering, playing in snow under watchful eyes of security. Grace giving hours of testimony to FBI agents, describing everything she remembered, faces, conversations, layout of the facility where trials occurred. Harrison worked phones constantly, calling in every favor, pressuring politicians, funding investigations, using his considerable power to choke neurobiotech financially. Victoria managed everything else, meals, schedules, keeping 2 traumatized children as stable as possible. It was exhausting, wearing, but slowly progress came. Agent Chen called on a Tuesday morning, 4 weeks after their arrival in Switzerland. We have him, Marcus Ashford, arrested 2 hours ago in Boston, charged with conspiracy to commit murder, illegal human experimentation, falsification of records, bribery, the list goes on. Harrison felt tension drain from shoulders. And the others? The executives who authorized this? Working up the chain, Ashford is cooperating, naming names in exchange for reduced sentence. We'll have the entire leadership by end of week. And Grace, Oliver, are they safe now? Pause. Oh, I'm safer, but Mr. Thornton, companies like neurobiotech have layers. Ashford was high up, but not the top. There may be others who want to protect corporate interest. Meaning we still need to be careful. Meaning you should stay in Switzerland until trials begin. That's when we'll need Grace to testify, if she's willing. Harrison found Grace in the library, reading picture book with Oliver. The boy leaning against her, safe, content. The shooting had bonded them, made them closer than blood relatives. Grace, can we talk? She looked up, read his face. They caught him, the doctor. How did you know? Your face, you look lighter, less heavy, perceptive as always. Yes, Dr. Ashford is in custody, but they may need you to testify at trial. Tell judge and jury what you saw, what your mother told you. Oliver grabbed Grace's hand. Grace has to go away? Just for a little while, if she agrees. Grace looked at Oliver, at his trusting face, at the healing scar on his shoulder, then at Harrison. I'll do it, whatever it takes to make sure they can't hurt anyone else. 2 months passed. Winter deepened in Swiss Alps. Snow piled high. The world outside Chalet became white wonderland. Inside, something shifted. The constant fear began to ease. Laughter returned. Small moments of normalcy. Grace started eating again, gaining weight, color returning to cheeks. She and Oliver played in snow, built snowmen, had snowball fights, being children instead of victims. Harrison watched from window, Victoria beside him. She's resilient, Victoria said, stronger than any of us realized. Like her mother. Like both her parents, whoever her father was. Harrison had wondered about that. Maya Coleman's files mentioned no father, no family at all except Grace. Another mystery in a life full of them. Have you thought about after? Victoria asked. After trials, after it's all over. What do you mean? Grace, where she goes, what happens to her? Harrison turned from window. I assumed she'd stay with us unless you had other ideas. I want to adopt her, formally, legally, not just guardianship, adoption. You're 25, single. Are you ready for that responsibility? Are you ready to be her grandfather? Because that's what you are already. She looks to you, trusts you. You've become the father figure she never had. Harrison felt weight of truth. Somewhere in chaos of past months, Grace had become his, not through blood but through choice, through promises made and kept, through standing between her and danger. Then we'll both adopt her, you as her mother legally, me as her grandfather in spirit, if she agrees. I think she will. They were right. When asked that evening, Grace simply nodded. Okay. Just okay? Victoria smiled. That's all? What else should I say? You're already my family. Paper just makes it official. Simple truth from someone who cut through complications to heart of things. But that night, Grace had nightmares, screaming herself awake. Victoria rushed to her room, found her tangled in sheets, shaking. What is it? What did you dream? Mama. She was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't hear her. And then the bad doctor came, and she was gone. Victoria held her until shaking stopped. Your mother would be so proud of you. You know that, right? Everything you've done. How brave you've been. I don't feel brave. I feel scared all the time. That's what brave is, being scared but doing the right thing anyway. Grace considered this. Then I guess I'm very brave, because I'm very scared. Dark humor from 6-year-old, but it made Victoria smile despite everything. The next morning brought spring thaw, snow melting, revealing green beneath, as if world was being reborn. Grace stood in garden, watching water drip from eaves. Oliver beside her, both bundled in coats. Look, Oliver pointed. Animal. A fox limped across the garden, favoring front right leg, blood matted in fur, caught in trap perhaps, or hit by car on mountain road. Grace moved toward it, instinctive. Oliver following. Grace, no, Victoria called from doorway. It could be rabid, dangerous. But Grace kept moving, drawn by something she didn't understand. The fox watched her approach. Should have run, should have been afraid. Instead it sat, waiting. Harrison appeared beside Victoria. What is she doing? I don't know. They watched as Grace knelt beside injured animal, slowly, carefully. The fox didn't flee, just watched with intelligent eyes. It's okay, Grace whispered. I won't hurt you. She reached out, placed small hands on injured leg. The fox trembled but didn't bite, didn't pull away. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Grace's hands began to glow, faint gold light, barely visible in morning sun, but unmistakable. Victoria gasped. Harrison stood frozen. The fox's trembling stopped. Its breathing steadied. When Grace removed her hands, the animal stood. Tested weight on previously injured leg. No limp, no blood. Healed. It looked at Grace for a long moment, understanding passing between species. Then it turned and trotted into trees. Healthy, whole, impossible. Grace stood slowly, turned to find Harrison and Victoria staring, Oliver clapping with delight. Grace did magic, fixed the fox. It's not magic, Grace said quietly. It's what Mama taught me, what she gave me. Harrison found his voice. How long have you been able to do that? Always, since I was little. Mama said it was special, secret, that I couldn't let anyone know, because of what she was researching. Victoria understood. The neural regeneration trials. They were trying to create what you already are. Grace nodded. Mama was scientist. Before she was nurse, she studied healing, how bodies fix themselves. She found a way to make it better, faster. Then she tested it. On herself? On both of us. When I was a baby, said it was the only way to know if it was safe. And it worked. But then she realized what would happen if bad people found out. What they'd do to me. So she hid it. Hid us. The clinical trials at Neurobiotech, Harrison pieced together. They were trying to recreate her success, but without her knowledge, using children as experiments. That's what made Mama so angry, so scared. They were hurting kids trying to make what I already was. She had to stop them, even if it meant danger. The full picture emerged. Maya Coleman had created breakthrough, then watched in horror as corporations stole her research, twisted it, hurt children, pursuing profit. She'd gathered evidence, knowing it would paint target on her and Grace. She'd died protecting that evidence, protecting her daughter. That's why they want you so badly, Victoria whispered. You're not just witness. You're the proof their experiments could work. Living evidence their research was valid. If they have me, they can study me. Figure out what Mama did. Reproduce it. Make billions. Grace said it without emotion. Statement of fact. But the weight was crushing. I'll kill them. Harrison's voice was cold fury. Every single one who thought using you was acceptable. I'll destroy them so completely, they'll wish they'd never heard the name Coleman. Grandpa, Grace used the title for first time. Naturally. You can't kill them, that makes you like them. Then what do? We use the truth. Show the world what they did, what they wanted to do to me. Make them so toxic that no one will touch them. No investors, no partners, nothing. 6 years old and thinking like corporate strategist. Maya Coleman's daughter indeed. Agent Chen arrived that afternoon. Urgent, excited. We've broken the case wide open. Ashford gave us everything. Names, bank accounts, communication records. 7 executives arrested, 4 more by tomorrow. Neurobiotech stock crashed, board voting to dissolve the company. And Grace, Harrison asked, is she safe? Safer. But Mr. Thornton, there's something else. Something Ashford revealed. Chen looked at Grace. He told us what you can do, what your mother created. Silence. Grace met the agent's eyes, unflinching. Are you here to arrest me? Take me to government lab instead of corporate one? God, no. We're here to protect you. But Grace, what you represent, the implications. We need to keep this secret, at least until you're older, can decide for yourself what to do with this ability. I already know what I want to do. What's that? Help people, like Mama did, but quietly, without anyone knowing, without becoming experiment or weapon or product. Chen nodded slowly. I think we can arrange that. FBI will classify everything related to your abilities. National security. Anyone who tries to access information will face federal charges. What about the people at Neurobiotech who know? Victoria asked. Ashford, the executives. Already handled. Part of their plea deals is signing non-disclosure agreements backed by federal law. They talk, they lose the deal, and face maximum sentences. No one's going to risk that. It wasn't perfect solution, but it was something. Grace would have to live with secret, with constant awareness of what she could do, what others wanted to make her do. But she'd be alive, free, safe as anyone could be in a complicated world. The trial came 6 months later. Boston Federal Courthouse, high security, international attention, the prosecution of neurobiotech executives for crimes against children. Grace testified for 2 days, calm, precise, describing what she'd witnessed, what her mother had told her. Defense tried to shake her, called her confused, coached, manipulated. But Grace didn't break, just answered questions honestly. Let truth speak for itself. When prosecution showed pictures of children injured in trials, children who'd died, Grace cried, openly, no shame. Just grief for kids she'd never met but somehow knew. The jury cried too. Verdict came 3 weeks later. Guilty on all counts. Marcus Ashford, 20 years federal prison. Other executives, 15 to 25 years each. Neurobiotech officially dissolved. Assets seized to compensate victims. It was over. Finally, truly over. They returned to Switzerland for celebration. Quiet one, just family, Grace, Oliver, Harrison, Victoria, and Whitmore serving cake because some traditions mattered. To Maya Coleman, Harrison raised glass of wine. Grace had milk, Oliver juice. Whose courage made this possible? Whose daughter inherited that courage? To Mama, Grace echoed, smile mixed with tears. Later that night, Harrison found Grace on terrace, looking at stars over mountains. Can't sleep? Too much thinking. About what? About what comes next. Trials are over, bad people in jail. What do we do now? Harrison sat beside her. We live, we be family. We give you the childhood your mother wanted you to have. I don't remember how to be normal kid. Then we'll figure it out together. I don't remember how to be grandfather who's actually present, but I'm learning. Grace leaned against him, small weight against his shoulder. You're doing good job so far. So are you. They sat in comfortable silence. Old man and young girl, connected by trauma and choice and love that didn't require blood. Grandpa? Yes? Thank you for keeping your promise, for protecting me when everyone else wanted to use me. Harrison felt tears on his cheeks, didn't bother hiding them. Thank you for letting me, for giving me a chance to be better than I was. You were always good, you just forgot for a while. Wisdom from 6-year-old, but truth nonetheless. 5 years passed. The chalet remained their primary home, but they traveled, saw the world, Grace attending private school in Geneva, Oliver in kindergarten, both thriving, both healing from trauma that would always be part of them but no longer define them. Grace was 11 now, tall for her age, dark hair long and shining, eyes still serious, but laughter came easier. She used her gift carefully, quietly, healing injured animals, never people where anyone could see, keeping promise to her mother. Oliver was 7, loud, energetic. No memory of the shooting, but scar remained. Badge of honor, he told other kids, meant he was tough. Grace never corrected him. Harrison was 78, older, grayer, but somehow more alive than he'd been at 70. He'd stepped back from business, let others run the empire, spent time with grandchildren instead. Victoria was 30, still unmarried but content. Grace called her mom now, legally, emotionally. The adoption had finalized 3 years ago. Simple ceremony, just family, but it meant everything. They gathered on terrace for dinner, spring evening in Alps, mountains painted gold by setting sun. Oliver was telling story, and then the frog jumped right in my face. Grace laughed so hard she snorted. Did not, Grace protested, but she was smiling. Did too. Tell her, Grandpa. Harrison chuckled. I plead the fifth, though I may have heard snorting sounds. Traitor. Grace stuck out tongue, playful, young, everything she should have been all along. Victoria watched them, this unlikely family forged in fire. Sometimes she thought about that day outside Boston General Hospital, how close they'd come to driving past, to never stopping, never meeting Grace, how different everything would have been. Mama, Grace used the title naturally now. Stop being sad. I can see your face doing the thing. What thing? The remembering thing, thinking about before. We're here now, that's what matters. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise, you're just noticing now. Laughter around the table, easy, genuine, the kind that comes from safety and love and time. After dinner, Oliver wanted story. The story, their story, how Grace had saved him, how they'd become family. They moved to living room. Fire crackling. Oliver curled against Grace on couch, Harrison in his chair, Victoria on the arm beside him. Tell it, Grandpa, Oliver demanded. Tell how Grace fixed my ears with magic mud. Not magic, Grace corrected, but gently. She'd learned to let Oliver have his version. Harrison began, voice warm. It started with 289 doctors who wouldn't help, who couldn't see past their schedules to notice a child in pain. But Grace saw, Oliver interjected, always at this part. But Grace saw, Harrison agreed, and a little girl with nothing gave everything to help a little boy she didn't know. He continued the story, not glossing over the hard parts, the danger, the fear, but framing it as journey, as growth, as family being forged through trial. When he finished, Oliver was nearly asleep. Victoria carried him to bed. Grace stayed with Harrison, looking into fire. "You tell it differently than you used to," she observed. "How so?" "You used to make yourself the hero. Now you make everyone the hero." Harrison smiled. "Because everyone was. You were brave. Your mother was brave. Victoria was brave. Even I managed moments of courage between my fear and mistakes. I'm glad you found us. Glad we found you." "So am I." Grace stood, moved to window, looking at stars. "Do you think Mama knows that we're okay? That the bad people got punished?" "I think she knows, and I think she's very proud. I miss her." "I know, but she's still here." Harrison tapped his chest. "In your heart, in your courage, in the good you do when no one's watching." Grace turned back. "When I use my gift to help animals, when I heal them, I pretend Mama's guiding my hands, showing me how." "Maybe she is." They stood together, grandfather and granddaughter, looking at the same stars, thinking about the same woman who'd started everything. "Grandpa?" "Yes?" "Do you think there are other kids like me from Mama's research?" "I don't know." "Why?" "Because if there are, they might need help, protection, like I had you." Harrison studied her, seeing future in those words. "Are you saying you want to find them?" "Maybe, when I'm older, when I can actually help." "Then when you're older, we'll look, together." "Promise?" "Promise, I don't break those, remember?" Grace smiled. "I remember." Victoria returned, found them by window, peaceful, content. "Oliver's asleep, snoring already." "Like a chainsaw," Grace agreed. "I can hear him through the wall." "You're welcome to move to a room farther away." "No, I like hearing him. Means he's safe. We were all safe." And they were. Finally, truly. The nightmares still came sometimes, for all of them, but less often, less intense. Healing was happening, slow but real. "I should get to bed too." Grace yawned. "School tomorrow." She hugged them both, fierce, tight. "Love you." "Love you too." Chorus from Victoria and Harrison. After she left, they stood together, watching fire die to embers. "We did good," Victoria said quietly, taking her in, protecting her. "She saved us as much as we saved her," Harrison replied. "Reminded me what matters, what's worth fighting for." "Think it's really over? The danger?" "I think it's never completely over, but we're stronger now, together, ready for whatever comes." Victoria rested her head on his shoulder. "Never thought I'd be a mother at 30. Never thought I'd get second chance at fatherhood at 78. Life surprises us. Best surprise I ever had." "Mine too." They stayed there until fire died completely. Two people who'd found purpose in protecting a child who'd needed protection. Two people who'd become family through choice rather than blood. In her room, Grace lay in bed staring at ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened, everything that had changed. She pulled out worn photograph from nightstand. Her mother, smiling, healthy, before cancer, before fear, before everything. "I did it, Mama," she whispered. "The bad people are in jail. I'm safe. I have a family, a real family who loves me." She kissed the photo, returned it to drawer. "I'll keep using what you gave me, the gift, but carefully, like you taught me, and maybe someday I'll find others like me, help them like Grandpa helped me." She rolled over, closed eyes, let sleep come. Real sleep, the kind without nightmares, the kind that came from safety and love and home. Downstairs, Harrison stood at his desk, looking at framed photo. Michael, his son, gone too soon. He'd failed Michael, been absent, prioritized wrong things. But maybe this was Michael's gift, sending Grace into their lives, giving Harrison chance to be the father and grandfather he should have been. "I'm doing better, son," he told the photo, "for Oliver, for Grace, being present, being there. Things I should have done for you." He touched the frame gently. "Thank you, for your son, for second chance. I won't waste it." Outside, snow began falling, first of season, blanketing world in white. Fresh start, clean slate. Tomorrow bringing new day, new opportunities, new memories to make. The Thornton family slept, protected, safe. Together, not bound by blood, but by something stronger. By choice, by love. By promise kept through fire and fear. And somewhere, somehow, Maya Coleman rested easier. knowing her daughter was protected, knowing the sacrifice hadn't been in vain, knowing love had won. Because sometimes that's how stories end, not with dramatic gestures or grand proclamations, but with quiet moments, with family around table, with laughter and tears and healing, with a little girl who'd been broken finding herself whole again, with an old man who'd been lost finding purpose again, with a young woman who'd been searching finding meaning again, with a family that shouldn't have worked but did because they chose each other every day, through everything. And that was the real miracle, not mud healing ears, not supernatural abilities, but humans choosing to love, to protect, to sacrifice for each other. That was grace itself, unmerited favor. Blessing received despite not being earned. Grace Coleman had given that gift to Harrison Thornton outside a hospital, and he'd returned it 1,000-fold. Neither would ever be the same, but both were better, together. And tomorrow, when sun rose over Swiss Alps, they'd wake up, have breakfast, tease each other, plan the day, be family, simple, normal, everything they'd fought for, everything worth having. The end of one story, but really just the beginning of another. Because family stories never truly end. They just keep growing, adding chapters, becoming richer with each passing year. And this family, this impossible, beautiful family, had many more chapters to write, many more memories to make, many more days to simply be together. But tonight they rested, safe in knowledge that tomorrow would come and they would face it together, always together, forever family, the end.